Hansa says, because of your Twin Peaks, I read Difficult Men.
Ooh.
Great book, love the structure. Isn't that book fantastic?
Yeah.
I read that in college. Not even like from it wasn't a teacher that recommended it. But it, it was like a friend of a friend or whatever. And I was like,
cool.
this is so good. So good.
Yeah.
Great weaving of like history and storytelling. Toxic Walt. I love how Breaking Bad ended with Walt telling Jesse, we really broke some bad. Yeah, let's show off some books. So these are some books that we recommend for film analysis.
It's hard to recommend books because there's so many. They're more. It's like very specific to your interests or like what about film.
Right, which is also exciting. If you have a particular interest, like let's say it's horror or women in film or whatever you find yourself kind of moved by, there will be a book written by someone awesome who's written about it, who cites their sources, which is also great because most of these books, all of these books have their sources listed, so it is also helpful to I liked this, so here's a whole list of things in a similar topic. Yeah.
Some of the best material that I end up finding is not when I read a book and then just quote that book, but like read a book, find an interesting footnote, find the book that footnote is from, read that, and then get some other like thing that I wouldn't have found otherwise just by reading one book. Like you kind of have to like, especially in the T.S. Eliot Katz video.
Yeah.
Like there were so many rabbit holes I went down that like that's how I found that T.S. Eliot was friends with a guy who said like Hitler is a friend of peace or whatever, and like which is like okay, that says a lot about T.S. Eliot that I otherwise wouldn't have known or whatever, and you'll never hear that in a literature class because they have kind of whitewash his whatever. But this is a book called Narrative Apparatus Ideology, and it's just a collection of like dozens of essays by different people. This is like a really good kind of survey of all kinds of like theory and like, all different. Like, let me read some of them.
And they're nice readable chunks, and you can choose it's like flip through, kind of a short story-esque way to start thinking about film.
Here's another collection of essays called Film, a Montage of Theories, which might be hard to find. I don't know. My friend gave it to me because he goes to used bookstores and just like picks up books. This was $4 when he got it. Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's like Eisenstein, Pudovkin, who were like really early Russian filmmakers. If you really want to get into film theory, go back to the very basic building blocks. And like Eisenstein, as much as he was making movies in like the teens, 20s, 30s, but so many of his ideas are still really, really relevant.
Yes, and modern film theorists are always referencing and going back to.
Like Eisenstein you can't escape him. The silly theory that I have right now is that the Jordan Peele Hideo Kojima video game, just based on the trailer, is going to be an exploration of Eisenstein's theories, because it's like the trailer is literally just faces reacting to things, and that's the most fundamental basis of Eisenstein's theories. But like go to a used bookstore and just find like old collections of essays and kind of skim through them and see if something pops out to you, like get that.
There is a book, I'm trying to look it up right now, that I actually just came across when I went to go see Kaz Rowe talk about their new book, which actually I'll grab it. It's not film theory, but
Where it is.
Women Make Movies, something like that. I'll try to find the title. But it's very good beginner guide, both of actual, like the physical, what does a set look like? It gives you like if you're looking for very entry level, and gives background on just like broad film theory topics. I'll look up the name of it, but it is really good if you're looking for, very entry level, getting used to all the terms and stuff that you'll find in these essays.
Yeah. This is a book called Backwards and Forwards by David Ball. It's actually about theater, but it's incredibly insightful in terms of how to get across your ideas through action and dialogue. I feel like every theater major loves that book. This book is film directing shot by shot. It's a entry-level college textbook about film directing. So it has like what different shots are called, and like, again, going back to the basic building blocks.
There's one book that I can't immediately find, but it is another collection of essays all about The Simpsons, which is fun. Which is fun just because, again, if you're just interested in learning how to talk about film and film theory, and most people have seen The Simpsons, so it's like a fun book that gives you theory with a cultural touchstone that you're probably already familiar with. And so, yeah, you can learn a lot of concepts and then apply it too.
When I was a kid, there were like 10 film theory books, and now there is a film theory collection about literally any show you can, any anime, any cartoon, any sitcom.
Also, quick, this is the Difficult Men book. This is a fantastic book about the golden age of television.
We used this was our main source for the second Twin Peaks video we did about Twin Peaks season 3.
Yes.
Like, this was, if it weren't for this book, that video wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
At least not the way that it does.
Well, and also, reading this, it put everything, the TV landscape of why it is the way it is because of what this book walks you through.
Yeah.
And just to quickly plug Kaz Rowe's latest comic book, graphic novel. We got to see them talk about it when they did a little book tour out here in LA. Liberated, the radical art and life of I'm so bad at
Claude
French.
Cahun.
Claude Cahun. So just doing a quick plug for a friend. But it's great and great gift.
Really fascinating surrealist artist that I don't think I had really heard.
I had
probably
never
heard of them like
yeah.
in an ancillary way, but like definitely excited to read that.
Yes.
We got a relevant question from an ordinary teacher. What would you suggest to engage high school students to look at film and media through a critical lens?
Oh, that's a great question. Or are you looking for a movie to show or a book?
I would say help them realize that, like, even TikTok, even a YouTube vlog, still like follows the rules of visual grammar and blah blah blah. Like, get them to think of the thing that they're already interested in, whether it's TikTok or a TV show or something.
Well, in a TikTok, when you respond to someone, we talk about suturing.
Yeah.
We talk about two images that are next to each other, or they're inherently in conversation. So that's why, when film theorists, when they watch a movie, it's like every editing is a choice, because before that, it didn't exist. There was nothing before, and now those two images are next to each other. Why is that?
Yeah.
But that is every TikTok that's ever, they're so engrossed in social media already, and all of that is built upon the ideas, that come about from film theory, which is...
Getting kids to look at an image, whether it's a still image or like a shot, and just like, how does this make you feel? And then think about why does it make you feel that way, I think is one of the most important things that we don't really, you're not supposed to think about why you feel a certain way during a Transformers
so
movie.
Wild, especially like, reading cinema theory, studying theory. It's like, it's all about feelings.
Yeah.
It's all about feelings. It's an analyzing of why it makes us feel that way, but it is a feeling that you're responding to, which is great, and also, like, that's what filmmakers, the best ones, are beautiful at, evoking feeling. I mean, that's why so many people love Spielberg and, his, where you, like, saw E.T. At the IMAX, and that it is, like, pure feeling, and, like, and he does such a beautiful job of conveying it, fear, conveying love, through his images, and, and so it's hard to talk about Spielberg because it does almost boil down to, well, it makes me feel this way.
Yeah.
But that's very important,
Well, even
more important.
After we saw E.T., I think I told you this already, but I was talking to Jeremy about it, and he was like, when he goes to analyze that movie, he's like, and he gets very animated about talking about movies, but he was like, there's parts of that movie that don't, on a on like a logical, literal level, do not make sense. Like, this should not work. This should not work. And yet I see that movie, and every time I see it, I'm crying. Like, so there's something beyond logic and something beyond, like, you know, whatever, that is just pure emotion that's so magical.
Yeah. There are great movies that are, I hesitate to use the term puzzle boxes because that's not really it. Wonderful films that are very, you know, have very intricate plots. But again, that plot is there to make you feel a certain way.
I would say like Death Trap or Glass Onion are like
Death
perfect
Trap.
examples of.
Yeah.
Or even Knives Out. Like they.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson has what a great balance of having a script that is very plot heavy. There is an entire mystery in there, but it is also about how does it feel to be the least person in this group of rich people? Like
without the emotional aspect of those movies, it's just a Sudoku puzzle. That's like, like, I mean, people love Sudoku, but you're not going to sit and watch a Sudoku.
Right.
Somebody else plays Sudoku for 2 hours.
Yeah. Film affects everything. I like, it's how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others. I also did want to quickly shout out, because he was in the back of this book, Mark Harris is a great author who has some great books similar in this vein, which is less theory and more history, although theory is in it and gives a great background. My favorite book of his is Pictures at a Revolution, and it covers the Oscars of the year that was Bonnie and Clyde, and The Heat of the Night, Dr. Dolittle, and whatever else was nominated that year. But it's a fantastic book about a very pivotal point in Hollywood, and also gives The Graduate. Gives some great film theory, but also gives, like historical context, what was happening at the time, what was happening on set. And that's also a great read, Mark Harris's.
One more book I wanted to mention, because this book, I've read it when I first moved to LA, and it helped me understand the kind of intersection of art and commerce in Hollywood. It's called Final Cut. It's about the making of Heaven's Gate, not the cult, but the Michael Cimino movie. He did like The Deer Hunter, and Heaven's Gate at the time was like the biggest failure in movie history. It destroyed the studio United Artists, which was like an artist collective, so it was a huge loss that it was destroyed. But read biographies of your favorite filmmakers. Like,
most of these books are theory, but there are some fantastic biographies about directors that is more about what does it look like for this to be your life, and like the good and the bad.
Well, and Matthew Hearn just said David Lynch movies are pure emotion, and he refuses to talk about his movies. So you have to read his memoir biography, which we drew a lot from for the videos on Twin Peaks. Is A, beautiful, B, has some of the most fascinating just like little tidbits of Americana. Like something that really stuck with me is he talks about how like nowadays parents are expected to go to your like kid's baseball game or soccer game or whatever. In the 50s, despite what like Ben Shapiro wants you to believe the 50s was like, dads did not go to their kids'
they were not
sports
there.
games. They did. It was like, why would I go to a child's game? Like, society, but like Hitchcock, as much as he was a huge piece of shit, there's a book, a biography of him by Patrick McGee or something. I forget. He does a lot of like film history books. But like whoever your favorite filmmaker is, find a good biography about them, preferably one that like is credible, because there's a lot of gossipy ones.
You can usually gauge which ones are the Prince of Inadequate Lighting says this conversation is making me think of the Stalker Loki video. Eisenstein, expression of feeling in film, visual grammar. We did a lot of film theory talk in that video. Miyazaki has some wonderful there's that I don't know if you guys have probably seen it, but there's the documentary about Miyazaki. He just has some great grains of wisdom. One of my favorite Miyazaki isms is the idea of characters just like being in your script, which I think is important because as a filmmaker, especially producers, will, time is money, literally. If something is on screen, they want a really good argument of why it's there. And Miyazaki pushes back against that, saying that, like, people are people. And, like, to make them feel like people, sometimes someone trips for no narrative reason. They're just clumsy. Things like that, that people do. People misspeak, people mishear. Inserting humanity into your scripts brings them alive in a way that, I think often gets overlooked, especially in, like the Hollywood little funnel.
When it goes back to, like, the basic building blocks, like, one of the most basic acting exercises is you'll have a student go sit on stage, and it's like, just go sit in that chair.
Yeah.
Which
that's
seems
the first
easy.
thing we did in acting class.
Yeah, but when you're in front of an audience of your like other students, or in a real play in front of an actual audience, like, all of a sudden sitting is everything. It's like,
and everyone's watching you, and you're aware. And really, the exercise is noticing that you're aware. And in the grand, if you're performing on stage, you'll have to be comfortable being unaware.
Yeah.
Incorporating them into your reality where you don't feel like you're being watched, because being intimate and alone, being able to be alone on stage and it to come off authentic, is very important. And it's just funny that actors never get to do that in film, even though that's like the first thing in that they'll teach you to do.
Yeah, except in David Lynch movies.
Yeah,
and I love that clip of him, like, yelling at the. I think is it the clip of him yelling at the producer where he's like, who cares how long a scene takes or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. And he's right. This is it's known as the night room because we use it so much. But this is also a really great touchstone.
There's probably a newer version of this, because this was the second edition, which was printed in 2000.
Yeah.
So
there's
probably like a fifth edition of this.
Right.
But it's literally just an encyclopedia of film terms. So, like, form/content, one paragraph. But then there'll be, like, feminist film theory, and have, like, 5 pages of information cross-referencing things, like, it'll say, like, this theorist says blah blah blah, so then go Google that theorist and find their book. Like, that's how I found, like, Donna Haraway, who writes about like cybernetics and like really cool cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, it's great. And also, just if you're in entry level, just kind of wanting to get your feet wet, it's great because it is just every term, and you can kind of just go through it and learn as you go. And then the other one is Color and Meaning.
This guy has an encyclopedic knowledge of, like, art history, but then also he looks at the way that our psychology and the way that our brain works affects how we see color.
Yeah.
And then what it means historically, like, through the years, different I think the color orange, there really just wasn't the color orange for, like, millennia, or I forget which color it was, but
on the cutting edge.
Like, they just didn't have a concept of certain colors, or, like, different societies have different concepts
and
of different
it
colors.
Changes all the time. And that also is the exciting thing about being an artist, is you can use the history of what the color means, but then also what does it mean to you in this particular project.